teachers in Florida are facing the tyranny, the religious tyranny of Ron Desantis, this Christian terrorist who is as bad as Donald Trump, only worse, actually, because DeSantis went to one of the Ivy Leagues, didn't he? Well, I guess Trump claims he did too, University of Pennsylvania. But anyway, a teacher in Florida, here's an example of what DeSantis is doing with the rules and restrictions he's placed on boards of education and teachers in Florida. A teacher there has resigned. His name is Michael James. He resigned after he says a school district employee removed photos of historic Black American figures from a bulletin board in his classroom. The teacher reported that this incident occurred at the O.J. Semmes Elementary School. He reported it to the county superintendent and Florida Governor DeSantis in an email. This is according to the Pensacola Journal newspaper. And Michael James told the newspaper that he chose the theme for the bulletin board because the majority of the students in his class are Black, and he wanted to showcase leaders that his students could look up to and see themselves in some future date, maybe. So the teacher, Michael James, said the images removed from the board included Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, Colin Powell, George Washington Carver, and that an image of former President Obama on his desk was also removed. Mr. James told the paper, quote, "It really floored me. I've been teaching special education for 15 years, and it just really floored me when that happened." So after sending the letter to this filthy bastard DeSantis, James resigned from his post as an exceptional student education teacher, where he taught students ranging from kindergarten to 5th grade. The newspaper added it was going to be his first year teaching in Florida. He has a 15-year history. But this was to be his first year in the shithole of America, Florida. And he was a special ed teacher. Absolutely necessary to the education and emotional psychological well-being of students that are in that category. Just absolutely necessary, a good education. And according to the Florida newspaper that reported this, Mr. Smith said that teachers are allowed to decorate their classrooms with educational materials, and he is not aware of any policies in place that would call for the employee's decision to take down the images. So, Smith, that is the superintendent. Let me see here. Yeah, the Escambia County Superintendent, Tim Smith. He said that teachers are allowed to decorate their classrooms, and he said the incident, he called it an anomaly. It's being investigated. And Mr. James, the teacher, described the person who took down his images as a board-certified behavior analyst for the school district. Behavior analyst who does shit like this? Board certified? What board? And Mr. James explained that ahead of the new school year, he had spent, it's not much, but he spent $60 of his own money on supplies to decorate this bulletin board that would hang behind his desk with the pictures of prominent Black Americans. Well, Anyway, he added that this behavior analyst and another behavior coach had come into his classroom to help him set up, getting ready for the kids coming back. He said, quote, they came in and we started moving tables around and I made the bulletin board a couple of days earlier. And he said that he was tending to another task and he looked up to see the woman behavior analyst taking something down off the bulletin board, which, by the way, was also had a copy of the Pledge of Allegiance. And when the teacher asked this analyst what she was doing, she said something along the lines of it wasn't age appropriate, for the students. It wasn't age appropriate, letting them see pictures of Dr. King and Harriet Tubman and Colin Powell and George Washington Carver. What age are you supposed to be, white lady? Jesus God. And he told the newspaper that he doesn't remember this woman mentioning race at the time, but that's when he said she also grabbed a picture of Obama that was on his desk, and he had it on his desk because there wasn't room for it on the board where he had put the pictures of these other prominent Black Americans. So the teacher, Michael James, said, quote, she picked it up, the picture of Obama. She picked it up and said, you don't need to put this up either. He went on. She said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said, the kids are too young, or something like that. It floored me, he said. I thought, this is the first Black president, end quote. So Mr. James, the school teacher, said at first he just let it go and he wasn't sure how to proceed. Though he said after giving it more thought, he got more upset. He said, quote, I could have just sent it to the principal. But things need to get done. A lot of times people can just sweep things under the rug, end quote. So, in a statement provided to the newspaper that reported this, the Escambia County Public Schools spokesperson, Cody Strother, said in a statement on behalf of the school that they were made aware of Smith's resignation and are investigating the incident. The statement read as follows, quote, our office was made aware of this employee's resignation and his stated reasons for resigning. Around the same time, we were copied on an email written by this individual and released to the governor's office and various media outlets before we had any opportunity to investigate. We are now in the process of conducting a full investigation. If these allegations are deemed factual, we will certainly take corrective action, as it is our aim that all of our teachers feel valued and supported. Okay. Well, keep us posted, okay, you lying bastards? Just keep us posted. Not age appropriate. Pictures of Barack Obama, Harriet Tubman, Dr. King, George Washington Carver. Not age appropriate. Son of a bitch. So here's another example. This is reported by CNN. Here's a teacher, Emily Lee. And she has 15 years of teaching second and third grade at Bernie Elementary, a 350-student school outside of Tampa. Not far from Tampa, about 30 minutes outside of Tampa. And she set up her classroom this month to welcome 3- and 4-year-olds for pre-K. And it's a change she has embraced, she said. It's a chance to get kids on the right path in their educational journey from a young age. You know, this whole idea of pre-K, 3- and 4-year-olds. This is great. We did this with Molly. But as instruction began, as CNN reports, in most of Florida this past week, there's some other changes that make Miss Lee anxious about the new school year. There's a bunch of bullshit laws, my word, that went into effect during the summer that restrict how schools teach topics linked to race and sexual orientation, as we've talked about many times. And DeSantis and this Christian terrorist legislature in Florida created for parents all kinds of new pathways where they can sue teachers and they can challenge instructional materials. Somebody gets a degree in education and then a teaching certificate, knows what he or she is doing, sets out their curriculum for the school year, and then some redneck fucker from Balrico, Florida, or Seffner, Florida, or Bradenton, Florida, or not Bradenton, but say Brandon, Florida, some of these little burgs west of or east of Tampa, takes a look and says, well, I don't want my kids learning about no Negroes. What's that about? Jesus God. Math textbooks have been gone over with a fine-tooth comb, as we talked about on this podcast earlier this year, for traces of critical race theory. Oh, we just don't want the Negroes to know what we God-blessed white folk are accused of having done to them. We never did it to them. I mean, when we brought over black folk here and enslaved them, oh, they liked it. Jesus God. Oh, and also, schools in Florida for the first time in the high school, I hadn't heard of this, they'll have to observe something called Victims of Communism Day. What? And apparently, this is a school event during which high schoolers will be taught anti-communism lessons. I don't know what to say about that. Victims of Communism Day. Now, this is reported by CNN. This is the first I've heard about this. Victims of Communism Day. Holy shit. Anyway, back to our teacher. This one, Emily Lee, she is suddenly worried about the books she's putting in her classroom library. And she's also thinking, should I have a classroom library at all? And she's wondering if a parent will complain if, say, a student with two moms shares stories from home during class time. Oh, my God. She said, quote, there has never been this level of politics injected into our job. Now, she's been a teacher in the same school and school district for 15 years. So it's not just in Bernie Elementary, but across the state of Florida. Teachers like Miss Lee are returning to classrooms that have become the focal point of this political bullshit, religious political bullshit put out there by the Christian terrorists. According to CNN, in the middle of the debate is Governor Ron DeSantis, the state's Republican leader and a potential presidential candidate, who has sought to remove what he calls woke ideology from the classroom. Now, obviously, this dumb bastard, DeSantis, doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand the term woke in this context. What would he prefer? A sleep ideology? But since he is leading this fight for political reasons, all of a sudden, this bum, DeSantis, has tapped into the same parental angst over the classroom rules that were put into effect during the coronavirus pandemic. And the same angst that fueled Glenn Youngkin's victory in Virginia last year when he ran for the governor of that state, Republican. But DeSantis has taken it to the nth degree, to a level that nobody even thought that a governor would do. Culling math books? So DeSantis, the Christian terrorist that he is, with the backing of all the Christian terrorists in the state of Florida, has engaged in a full-scale effort to completely reshape school boards by endorsing about 24 Christian terrorist candidates who have vowed to support his agenda where it concerns the classroom. CNN calls it an education agenda. I won't call it that. This is not education. This is brainwashing bullshit. This is a continuation of Christian terrorism, denying young people the right to understand not just where we are, but how we got here, especially where it concerns race and anti-Semitism and homophobia and all this stuff that the Christian terrorists want the children of this country to absorb. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.